So as a child, I was very, knowing that you can work that hard and make money while other kids are playing football in the field or that, and I can't be bothered, So that's why I asked my mother, nak menjaga kuih lah, I want to sell kuih. My mother said, you are still small, kecil, boleh. I kata, can lah. So by 10 years old, so I spent a lot of time in my kitchen, my mother's kitchen to perfect, all the srimungka, the kuih. So whatever that I find is not good enough, I will go and try and learn from my neighbor's home.
Why, hello there, food lovers, and welcome to the Hungry Immigrant, the place where flavors cross borders and cultures unite. I'm your host, Abang Brian, coming to you with stories, secrets, and the irresistible charm of Asian cuisine and heritage. Each week, we'll journey into the heart of what makes food more than just a meal. We'll talk to chefs, celebrities, home cooks, and food enthusiasts who have brought their heritage to our tables. From the bustling streets of Kuala Lumpur to the vibrant markets of Manila and Seoul to the Chinatowns of New York, Paris, and Toronto, we're exploring the magic of food that connects us all. So join us as we delve into the rich tapestry of Asian food culture and heritage, celebrating the traditions and innovations that make our culinary world so diverse and exciting. Now, get ready as today's episode promises to be a flavorful journey. I think I'm going to make this the very first episode to launch the whole series of The Hungry Immigrant. I think we recorded this a little bit later compared to the other episodes because it's so hard to get this person. I was really going out on a limb, messaging him through Instagram. We've worked together once, twice. Well, I think everyone in Malaysia looks up to him. Everyone around the world looks up to him when it comes to Malaysian food. I call him the Malaysian food ambassador. I don't want to name all the awards that he has won because that will take one whole hour.
I know.
He's got like restaurants all around the world. I think soon expanding, kan?
Yes.
There's about 13 outlets already in Malaysia, and I think the only way to introduce him is his tagline lah. From back in the days. He is Chef Wan, the only one. And so thank you very much, Chef Wan. I'm really closing my eyes. Like, thank you so much for agreeing to...
Because back then, you must understand now why I became very popular, because there were not many competitor, in that so-called television world.
Yeah.
And so it was easy for people to be very focused to listen to me and see how I cook and all that, on top of all my wits and humor and all that. And so that, went on for a long time. I think now was like 34 years,
Wow.
Tuition lama tu. Orang lama.
Yes, like the OG, we call it the OG. Yeah. One of the things that everyone knows about you is your food, your personality. I think the one thing that I truly admire about you is the way you are unapologetic about the food that we have in Malaysia and the character that you are, right? You are you, right?
Yeah.
But paint us a picture for people who maybe only know you from the screens. But we want to know who is the little Chef Wan. How did he grow up?
Actually, as a child, I've always been a very mischievous,
He still is.
Yeah, and I like to prank people, making jokes. Even in school and all that, was never really very focused in a lot of my homework and all that. But nevertheless, I did studied. So I guess I have this one of this photocopy brain thing where I can capture things very quickly, easily, and so I was able to get pretty good grades in school and all that. But other than that, I've always been a person who believes in talent. For example, as a child, I love gardening. So at 9 years old, I start my vegetable plot garden, because we have 7 in the family and I'm the eldest. And so my father was before in the Royal Malaysian Air Force, pangkat rendah, low ranking. My mother, Chinese, converted to Muslim to marry my dad. She's from Singapore. So there's 7 of us in the family. I'm the eldest. So naturally, I had to help my mother to do a lot of household work and all that. So I think over that years, my life is exposed to, I guess, getting things done quickly. So I think with that, my spirit has always been, very high, very positive. As I always feel that, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Kan? Buat je lah, kan? So I never really too worried about failure ke. Some people like wonder, if I do this, and I usually don't have time to do all that wonder. I just make it happen, kan. So when I was small, 9 years old, time Chinese New Year, I will have a pop-up store in front of the house. It's just boxes or crate of anything I can sell. And then back from school, then I will start to have my so-called semua kedai runcit lah.
Wow.
Anything to make money, yeah. Even at the young age, after this beautiful harvest from my own vegetable plot garden, and that garden turned out to be a garden of Eden after a few years, and then we start to produce a lot of veggie and all that. So when I get them, I would also sell them to all my neighbors and all that. Then you have that excess money of doing whatever you want to do lah. So as a child, I was very, knowing that you can work that hard and make money while other kids are playing football in the field, all that, and I can't be bothered, no. So that's why I asked my mother, nak menjaga kuih lah, I want to sell kuih. My mother said, you are still small, kecil, boleh. I kata, can lah. So by 10 years old, so I spent a lot of time in my kitchen, my mother's kitchen, to perfect, all the Sri Munka, the kuih. So whatever that I find is not good enough, I will go and try and learn from my neighbor's home. Makcik-makcik, more experienced than my mother, kan. So I went there, and sometimes just to volunteer to make kuih, sometimes apam lah, buat, cake ni, cake tu and all that. That's always been me. So whatever I want to do, I always say, like, if I put my thoughts and work hard, even dengan dua tangan ni, everything
It's just two hands.
jadi,
We need to explain to the global audience, and I believe in the Makciks, and I was also brought up by Makciks, and there's this power of the Makciks, I believe. So like in Asia, especially in Malaysia, we have this term we call aunties, and it's a form of respect, and we go around, we call everyone auntie, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the neighbor's mother or your real auntie who's related to you, everyone by politeness we call auntie, right? And they actually form the backbone of a lot of the culinary heritage that we have.
Yes. So because if you spend long time with them, and then you begin to learn that, these are very experienced people in the culinary world, and so they will pass down their recipe, because they like a child who is hardworking, easily motivated and driven. Like me back then, I was very fussy about cleanliness and personal hygiene and cleaning up after my work. So makcik kata, bagus lah kau ni, because when you work, I can see you tidy up, you clean, all that. I wish my children is like that. I wish my daughter is like that. So I guess I was born to be, a person who not only value that culinary world, but also understand that you have to put effort to go out there and to learn. At that time, learning whether I'm volunteering, someone selling satay, cucuk satay for like few hours, to get hundreds of them. Sampai kuning-kuning tangan pergi sekolah, cikgu kata,
Because of the turmeric.
because turmeric and all that. But then I learned to cucuk properly, to get them that right, everything, so that they look perfect, to cut them, the meat all the same size, so that they all cook at the same time and all that. Before even I went into a professional chef kitchen to work, I've already been handed down this skill. When I start going to culinary school, I find, everything that I have to deal with was very effortlessly lah. To some people yang rasa it's hard, you have to stand on your feet and all that. I've been standing since I was 9 years old, kan. So that's why that's a good thing lah about when you are not born kata with a silver spoon, so you don't take things for granted. And so then the rest will just follow je lah.
So like basically you went to I like to call this, and I went to this school as well. I think we went to the same school. It's the Culinary Institute of Makciks. But let's just zoom into your fondest memories, right? All this, I understand you went around and you learned stuff and all, but your very first memories of food in the house, was it from your mother, and how was that like?
Actually it started at that time. I was only standard 1 though. My mother,
Standard 1 is like 7 years old.
7, 8 years old, around that time. And my mother gave birth, to all my other siblings every year. Kan dia beranak back then. There's no television, no. That was the only part of entertainment.
Keep it clean, chef. This is a family show.
Then I had to wash up my sibling, get them ready for school, doing shows. So even at that age, I've always been like, a responsible brother lah, kan. So then I remembered my first, while my mother was going through her confinement, she said, how about I teach you a few things before I deliver, and then maybe you can assist me to cook something for your sibling. So one of the early things she taught me was simple thing, like ikan masak kicap, fish cooked with soya sauce. She taught me how to fry simple chicken. And at that young age, my mother teach me how to do fried rice. It was my fondest memory. I still remember my mother was actually having, I think, the fifth boy. That's one of my brother. And then when my father came back, I had all this plate of fried rice that I was like, very proud lah. My father kata, oh, they look so beautiful. He said, your mother will never give me a fried rice with all kind of demand. Ni macam nak bagi lauk pengantin nak makan.
Like for people getting married.
And then the next day, I started to do fried rice with sardine lah, with different things, all that. My father was asking, tak ada lain ke nak makan hari-hari nak makan nasi goreng aja? My father said, is there anything else? Because we're eating nasi goreng every day.
Same thing on.
Yeah, but then I said, you have to understand, these are different flavor, no? When people had this nasi goreng kampung, nasi goreng, so I used to add all kinds of things to change. Then I begin to realize that every day as I was doing this, my fried rice tastes much better and better. Because every day you're improvising, improving, doing R&D and all research. So even at that young age, I had already had this motto, good, better, best, till good be better, I never rest. So it's a constant effort that, like even in the restaurant business, we have a whole team doing R&D. So they will do all the R&D. Like I said, I'm not very happy with this prawn curry this week, for example. We have so many types of prawn curry. So let's try A, B, C, D. And then I collect some of the recipes. Okay, try this, try that. And then let us sit collectively together, all the chefs, and today's, and which one you think this would represent the brand. That was my memory as a child when I first knew was called the fried rice. And then of course also memory working in my own garden, planting our own sweet potato, tapioca, and then we harvest cucumber, brinjal. Then I was like, oh, we can start learning how to make gado-gado. Can start learning to make pechal. So then I said, oh, I've eaten this during Ramadan. The neighbors sent me. So I said, how do I get the recipe? My mother doesn't know how, because she's Chinese. She has a very limited knowledge about Malay food. So then I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this makcik a kind of bribe, cucumber. And I said, it's a gift for you. And I said, I really like your pechal. He said, oh, you like? He said, next time you can come, I teach you. I said, really? So I start giving her all that. And then next time she said, I like your curry puff. So I gave her all the sweet potato and all that curry puff. So back then it was all this barter trading going on between knowledge and so I guess at that time, I was excited about presenting all my produce, proud of what I have worked in the garden. So I guess that was the one that excited me suddenly, like, oh wow, from a plot of garden I have here, although I don't have a lot of money to buy other ingredients, I have basic things like flour, this, I can develop that into something else, and then in return I use that to give away to my neighbors and all that, which I really realized at the time that how wonderful the spirit of giving and then loving, and then I see a lot of my neighbors all begin to like me, all the makcik-makcik auntie. Some people say, kau besar jadi menantu makcik.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That's what they always say. Like, you're going to be my son-in-law.
You're going to be my son-in-law, okay? And then they always compare between me and their son. Or compare me or with the neighbor's children who was naughty, this, all that. So, again, my role as a food ambassador of Malaysia, as we have done, for many years, sitting on that position. So then people look at me as, you didn't just become popular overnight lah. You become popular for a lot of many good positive reasons that other people also like, hey, how come our children are not like this, like that kind. So people sometimes compare that. I see that lah, even in the Felda pun I see when I start giving money or clothing and all that, they say, oh, even my own children don't go to all this neighbor bagi duit raya lah, bagi all that. So but for me, I was just happy doing it.
I think that is your character as a child also.
As a child sama juga. You become selfless, no? In the end, whatever you earn, the money that you make, you share with others.
And that is also very symbolic of our culture.
Even our restaurant also, the food, you say, food is shared.
Yes,
that's what it is. Food is love. Food is friendship. And through that, we find peace and we find respect to all humankind.
I think just very quickly, from the stories that you told me ever since you were young, what you've created all throughout your life is goodwill. Whether it's like in an exchange of, when you exchange things and you make people feel good and all, it's goodwill, it's intangible.
Just like we're cooking on TV is the same thing too, kan? Because we're giving people knowledge, we're teaching, I mean, there's so many great chefs, of course. There's so many great television presenters as well. I never really take my career like 100% like too seriously, except, I take it as a fun thing, just like today we're talking here and just to inspire people, and people who can see, oh, now I understand why. But then I'm just sharing with people the true story. And it's very true. You notice a lot of successful people are people who also think outside of their box, people who wanted to go out there to help their own family, to help themselves, and in return we help people around us and all that. And that's what it is,
Talking about sharing, I think you are the right person to help me do this. Being already all around the world yourself, whenever I travel, the biggest problem for me is when I say I'm from Malaysia. Number one, where is Malaysia? Right? Which is getting better nowadays. We have Malaysians all around the world, but Malaysian food. As the Malaysian food ambassador, how would you define or explain to people who do not know Malaysia at all what is Malaysian food?
It's easy for people to define Chinese, Japanese, Indian kan, and all that. But then when it comes to Malaysia, people say like, what is Malaysian cuisine kan? They understand Thai. Some also now begin to understand more of Vietnam as well.
Yes.
But they don't understand what Malaysian or Singaporean cuisine either. Because people identify the country being, the majority nationality that live there lah. I always like to see our cuisine Malaysian as really a melting pot of Asia basically, not just Southeast Asia, but Asia in general. Because a part of us is a part of just about everybody, whether it's our neighbor Thailand, Indonesia. If you look back history, all these immigrants coming kan ke Tanah Melayu kan. So even from China and all that, Peranakan, Baba, Nyonya, then we have the Portuguese at that time and the British come much later. So when you look at the history back of the country, that's what it is. So you can't change that. As I always say, can you change history? You can't kan. So we're very lucky because a part of us is a part of Asia too. So when people ask me what is Malaysian cuisine, we are a melting pot of just about everything in Asia lah. But that what makes it beautiful, we have our own identity, style of food that represent the country, which is not 100%. You see the real authentic things that serve whether in Thailand or Indonesia. Nasi lemak is one example lah. When you notice some of these are also very territorial, it's very regional and all that. I always tell people, it's not like one kind of nationality or one kind of culture that represent Malaysian cuisine, but basically it's a majority of just about everything that comes together.
Do you agree that nasi lemak is our national dish?
I do. Why not?
Because I'm just asking.
Because anywhere around the world you go kan,
Yeah.
mana you nak dapat unit nasi lemak tu kan? Tak ada. Indonesia, they have the nasi uduk tu, but then it's not the same like kita punya with our sambal or lauk and all that apa semua. So we have like nasi dagang also. Where else can you find kan? We do have our own identity jugalah. So that makes Malaysian cuisine in its own orang kata territory lah.
So when we talk about Asian food in general, right, we've been all around the world and Asian people are all around the world, right? When you see Asian food being served abroad, let's just talk about Malaysian food, right? Malaysian food abroad, what is your opinion on it?
Malaysian food abroad usually are not totally represented really 100% well lah. Firstly, because when someone start a restaurant back then, a lot of all the raw ingredient is not easily accessible. So that's why for many years you notice there were not a lot of restaurant that have accessible easily all the rempah ratus, spices, the chilies, and then you notice you go to even like a sundry store, Chinese store in Chinatown, very limited. But over the years, because a lot of migrants have actually I remember all this started when a lot of Vietnamese have actually moved and traveled because they were doing the war kan. So they also brought a lot of all their spices, ingredients. Some also grew or their own. We have a lot of Thai as well, start opening Thai restaurant everywhere. And then from that onward I realized more and more people are also traveling to that many parts around the world, to America, to Australia, to UK to study. So when all the students living in their homeland to all those country, and naturally they would always sometimes want to cook Asian cuisine as well kan. So therefore they will go into the market to look. So there's a market for it, for people to buy lemongrass. Then I begin to realize, nowadays dah banyak more people buying lemongrass, galangal, lime leaf, all these basic ingredient that's used in a lot of our Malay or Malaysian culinary world. And then of course, all these spices are there, and we have Indian as well. And so then it's easy accessible to put them together. Then slowly you can see Malaysian cuisine start to form its own identity and all that. But before, if I look at 10 years ago, it wasn't much because a lot of them was more Malaysian but more Chinese orientated. And you have to understand as well, back then those people who went abroad, to work as well, not only they didn't have access to the right ingredient proper, many of them also don't have culinary skill. They were like Chinamen who just have money from some other business, and they come back, they set up a restaurant, and then that's it. They don't really progress now. So it's very limited. So that's why the food is not really authentic in that sense.
There's so many questions that I want to ask you, and like we only have 1 hour. I always tell people, like, especially when I meet people like you who have so much experience and so much knowledge in the area, like there's
knowledge tak ada lah. I don't think so. I'm sure I'm just as knowledgeable as so many other experience. Maybe my own true experience lah kan. From that younger time when I was living in America, I could see lah, how food start to evolve in San Francisco, in LA, in New York, in Honolulu, and then in London, that. Then what it was, 20, 30 years ago, and what is now, slowly changing, that.
Okay, this is a very challenging question, which I like to ask all chefs, because you mentioned the word authenticity. Do you believe in authenticity?
Yeah, I of course I believe in authenticity. I like the food to be authentic, because when you eat something that's very authentic, and then it satisfies you. For me, it's like doing things as in the olden days, how a grandmother's kitchen is. For example, somebody in Italy who has done something from their grandmother's kitchen, but say, oh, this is really authentic. This is how my grandmother would cook it. Because every country is like that, whether it's Spanish, whether it's French, it's all like my grandmother's kitchen, because all these recipe have been passed down for centuries. So that's why the authenticity there. But when someone comes in and play around and change and know that, and then it becomes something different. I only like people to try and produce food and improve the quality food flavors and everything. Even it's from authentic. If you can improve it, do it.
Like also when we open restaurants abroad and all, I feel that it's no longer like that. That back in the days we used to water our food down to suit the customers, right? Do you think that we are still doing that? Do you think we should be doing that?
Whoops, that's all the time we have for this episode. But hold up. I hear more spicy comments coming right up. Catch the next part of our conversation in the next episode, dropping next week at the same time. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, terima kasih and thank you for joining us on yet another episode of The Hungry Immigrant. It's been a delightful feast of stories and flavors that remind us just how much food brings us together. Now don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you'll never miss an episode. And if you loved today's culinary journey, leave us a review and share the episode with your friends and family. Your support helps keep our traditions alive and our tables more diverse. Do follow us on Instagram at Hungry Immigrant and my personal account Abang Brian for behind-the-scenes looks and extra tidbits from each episode. We love to see how food inspires you, so do tag us in your next food adventure. I'm Abang Brian, reminding you to savor every bite and cherish every moment at the table. Until next time, keep your plates adventurous and your hearts open.